Well, hello, welcome to the Heat Army podcast. As I say, we're on a Tuesday night. You have to blame my wife for that because she was born tomorrow. So we've had to shift the podcast.
Tomorrow.
You know what I mean? She was born on that date. Very inconsiderate for thinking 39 years. Oh, I shouldn't give her age, should I? Down the line. That was the podcast that night. But yeah, Mickey, it's a week on. I thought, to be honest, the National League vote would have been close to being resolved by now. I thought everyone, whoever wanted to end the league, would have voted by now, so they weren't having further expenditure of what would have happened. But here we are, still, kicking at the grass here. There's nothing happened.
Did you expect that?
Kind of. I did.
You did.
I thought I thought by now we might have had a clear idea of where people were voting. At the moment, it's very, very tight. I think it's probably 3 or 4 votes in it. I think null and void is just ahead at the moment, but we'll obviously find that out in the coming days. We've got a few things to talk about as well. But if you are new to the podcast or if you joined us last week, remember you can message us like people have done already. You can do it on we're all live on Twitter this evening as well for the first time. So if you're watching on Twitter, thank you very much for joining us. And Jack Bannon's for good evening, guys. And we've got good evening from Luke, good evening from Luke, and good evening from David Tron as well. So we have got Mark Rivers joining us very, very shortly. But yeah, it's absolutely just a travesty, really. And as I say, as you can see, I'm broadcasting here from the Quayside, and if you believe that, you're as daft as the National League, because it's just a mess.
You would have a sheepskin coat on if you were stood out there, mate.
We are also as well going to have a call from Jack again, the Brackley fan. He's got some things to say because obviously it's affecting Brackley as well. So we got him on, but want you to ring the show tonight and message the show. That's what it is all about. We're going to play a quick message from our sponsors, and when we do, we're going to bring Mark Curvers in to talk about what's happening at the moment. Yes. Well, thank you to our sponsors, Northern Print Solutions, as ever. But Mark, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. Cold, but good. Yeah, it's
cool. You're on the Quayside as well.
As I can see, I mean, you should have something a bit more padding on there. I think it's freezing out.
I've got a lot of padding underneath the t-shirt. Mark, as I say, just before we get started as well, everyone have a go to the Northern Goals Show. Mark's got links on his Twitter. We've retweeted it as well. Fantastic debate. I was lucky enough to be on there last night and speaking to Darlington fan, South Shields and Heaven Town fan. Great to get the views of everyone in the North East. So go to that first after the show. But Mark, it's like banging your head off a brick wall, isn't it, at the moment?
It is, and I think, it's just in what you were saying there before I came on, the fact that you thought we would have some sort of indication, but I think what we're seeing now is just a lot of clubs looking after their own interest, which I do get. That's why, as I said on the show last night, it was so admirable that Gateshead came out and said, that they wanted to take care of the part-time players that are in the National League and National League North and South, and make sure that they were looked after properly with the testing, which has come out. But again, as Gates had said, no matter how attractive the terms of the loan look, it's over 20 years. There's an immediate payment holiday in there. It's a low interest loan. No matter how low that interest is, no matter how preferential those terms are, it's still debt. It's still debt that you're placing onto your club. It's still got to be repaid. It's not free money. And I think that's why, especially, let's be honest, we were already in a difficult financial environment anyway. Yeah. I hardly think COVID has helped that, far from it. And now you're asking people to take on more debt. Some clubs, they will be able to afford that. They will be able to do that and service that debt properly. But some clubs can't. And I think, far rather be cautious with the environment we're in. And I think that's why the majority of clubs so far have said that they will go null and void. There is a clear north and south split, we should say that. it looks as if the National League South are heading more towards playing on. But I think the North is very much up in the air. What that means for the overall situation, I'm starting, when this all started, I was edging towards null and void, but now I must admit, the more this goes on, I'm starting to wonder what's going to happen, and it may well end up where we end up playing on.
And also, as well, been some interesting developments. Ollie Bayliss, the BBC non-league reporter for 5 Live, I think it is, he's put up this today from the Dover Athletic chairman, and he's put the former director of the National League Board believes that clubs will be breaching National League rules, and they're below if you want to go and have a look at this and read them in more in depth, by taking loans from Sport England. The Dover chairman, Jim Parmenter, what was being offered by Sport England does not comply with the league's own rules regarding clubs taking loans, and he's actually resigned from the National League Board. And to me, that absolutely speaks volumes. That he's come out and said that, and he's, and also I think as well, I read in some online post that he said he's going to have to furlough the staff ASAP, really, to keep the club afloat.
Yeah, well, Dover were having issues anyway, weren't they? So they've hardly been helped by this. It's a really strong statement he's come out with, and what's being put out today about the rules that are being broken is quite damning of the National League. I don't think their leadership throughout this has been great. I think the communication's been poor. I do accept that they are part of a chain where they are being led by DCMS and the government, and it is difficult for leagues. I appreciate that, but I still think the communication coming out of clubs, the manner of the communication has been very poor, and that's one of the things where I think they've got to accept that criticism. They've got to try and use it as a positive going forwards, and make sure that they improve on that going forwards in the future, in case we end up in, hopefully we won't end up in this situation again, but if we do or something similar, you would hope that they will learn from what they've done poorly this time around.
But it just becomes more and more frustration, because here we are a week on. You couldn't put a cigarette paper between it for which way the vote is going to go, and as you said, there's a bias between the North and the South, and there is a vote parallel with in this mess of a voting system about voting for your own league. Could you see the National League North not being going ahead and the National League South going ahead, and yet they have the promotion places? Or
I think we'll be looking at a situation where you've got to have, the Step 2 clubs or the Step 2 leagues. It's one or the other. You can't allow them one to play and one not to play. I would imagine the Step 2 Step 2 leagues will have to come to the same conclusion. However that's done. Yes, you could have where the National League continues, because they've got the golden, whatever you want to call it, with the 2 promotion spots into the football league. So that'll have to be upheld, because they'll want to continue that. They won't want to lose those promotion spots. I think there's been a lot of cynicism towards how the EFL view promotion from non-league over the last few years. I think we've seen it when they've tried to push for another place, and trying to get 3 up, given the success of clubs being promoted from the National League. So I think they'll do all they can to continue playing this season to try and maintain those 2 promotion spots. So I think, I wouldn't be shocked if we end up with null and void in Step 2, but Step 1 carries on. But again, as I said, this is changing daily. My opinion's going all around the place. And I think the longer it goes on, the more I think we could be heading towards Step 2 playing on. As I said last night on the show, though, what does that mean for clubs who don't want to take loans? Can they just refuse to play? Will that lead to punishment? It's a very messy situation, and I think the National League have got to be very, very careful with how they deal with this.
I think it just depends how many teams in the National League North vote null and void. If you've got 13 teams, then you've got more than half the league are prepared to say, well, it's null and void.
Yeah.
What can you do? You've got basically 51%, haven't you? So,
I mean, it's easy to say that the clubs that are going for null and void are the ones who are struggling, but that hasn't been the case. You've got obviously Gateshead in the playoff place, in around the playoffs. They voted null and void. You've got Spennymoor, who, by the way, put out an unbelievable statement last week. They deserve great credit for that. You've got Chester, who were lying in second. They've come out and said it. Now, you look at these clubs, they're ones that have been through financial difficulties recently. Chester, they had to reform through no fault of their own, we should say. It was poor management. Same with Gateshead. We know what went on there. So, clubs know what happens when you get into financial trouble. And it's understandable that they're going to be wary of doing that. I think that's the thing. Neil Pinkerton and the Gateshead board deserve great credit because they're trying to make sure there is a Gateshead football club here for generations to come. And that means not saddling it with debt for generations to come.
Yeah. Gents, I'm so proud of that club behind this ridiculous situation. Amazed that certain other clubs somehow want to go ahead with no revenue. It kind of goes down what you said there, but I think as well what has probably made this drag it on has been the deadline for the vote. I thought that was a little bit silly, given the amount of clubs that maybe want to null and void and try and cut costs, because at the moment they'll have to be paying wages and all the other things in between. So yeah. It's just a mess, and it's getting frustrating now. And a lot of clubs, like you said, I'm quite surprised that want to go ahead with it.
Well, I'm not surprised by clubs wanting to go ahead, because there are a lot of clubs that will benefit from going ahead. The ones, as I say, in the National League in particular, who, if you look at your Hartlepool, I don't blame Hartlepool United for wanting to continue, because they've got a great chance to return to the Football League. And, that's what that club is. It's a Football League club in everything but status. So yeah. I don't blame clubs like that. I am surprised by certain clubs want to continue, ones that are, they're not professional full-time outfits. They're not, there's some that aren't really bankrolled, as Gateshead said in that statement that went out, that there were bankroll clubs trying to pressure some. There are some that aren't, that want to continue. So it's a very, people are looking after themselves here. Not a lot of clubs are looking after the bigger picture. And I think that's why things are heading the way they are. It's been, again, and I'm not just saying it because we're on a Gateshead podcast, but Gateshead deserve credit for trying to look at the bigger picture and not just looking at themselves.
And I'm really disgusted at it. Indeed, I have a question. Do you think the National League are acting like they are scared more of damaging their relationship with the EFL than helping their own clubs? And that's an interesting one. That Mickey, I'll let you go first on that one. What do you think about that?
Well, they'd be absolutely terrified of losing it if they don't have a team going up. Are they scared they're going to lose the chance of a team going up and might go back to just one promotion place? I wouldn't be surprised. To be honest, the way I look at the National League, I think they'd rather Darlington, Spennymoor, Blythe weren't in the National League. They'd rather want Evo stick, because to me it's like out south of Birmingham, they're not really interested in other, really. Apart from York, of course, but that's just my opinion. Yeah. And I just think they're a bunch of incompetent arseholes as well. So
language. But Mark, would you think that the National League are trying to look after their marquee clubs and the marquee league that is, and we're just an afterthought at the moment?
I think there is some credence to the argument that they are trying to preserve the two clubs going up and the two clubs going down. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because you think, when you look at the clubs at the bottom end of League Two at the moment, there are some big clubs in there, and you look at what's come down in the last few years, your Notts Counties and clubs like that. They're big name clubs, and let's be honest, that enhances the National League product, if you want to call it that. So they'll want to preserve that relationship as much as they can. But they've got to look after the member clubs more than anything, because they're the ones that are there year in, year out. And I just think it's a case of having to, really, really think about how they're dealing with this, because so far it's been abysmal. As far as I'm concerned, as I say, it's not just the communication; it's the manner of the communication. It's the stuff leaking out into the media. I think that's been appalling, the way that's been done. How can people find out, stuff, vital information via Twitter before people involved at clubs find out? That makes absolutely no sense to me. Yeah. So I think the National League need to really look at themselves and how they've dealt with this whole situation. I do have a degree of sympathy, because nobody's been in this situation before. But they clearly haven't learned lessons from what happened a year ago. They are still making the same mistakes now.
Exactly.
And I think there's just a lot to be learned going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the playoffs last year. It was an absolute farce, and like you said, they haven't learned from it. And here we are. What did we play? Was it July? We played the playoffs, and we're in February, 6-7 months down the line, and they're still making the same mistakes. Mark, once is a mistake, second is incompetence.
Well, the other thing is as well, what we shouldn't ignore here is we're now going into the middle of February. We are now where some clubs have barely made into double figures for league games. So you look at someone like Darlington, they've got about 30 league games left to play, probably more, I think it is, in the space of what will be 3 months. Now, if we continue having this bad weather, if they continue the FA Trophy run they're in, that's a lot of fixtures to ask part-time footballers to play in an environment where they're going to have to travel with a bit of danger around them. I know there's testings coming, which is, let's be honest, the league deserve credit for bringing that in under pressure from clubs. But again, you're expecting clubs to travel in a dangerous environment. Look at Darlington having to travel. I know it was an FA Trophy game, having to travel to the south coast to play Weymouth in an FA Trophy game, a journey of, I think it was at 780 miles or something around that. It's a farce, and for me, because we haven't played a significant proportion of the season, they should just null and void, and then we'll start again when it's safe to do so, which we would hope would be sort of August as normal if we have a full season where we move on from the absolute farce that this has been.
Yeah, I think the disappointing thing has been obviously on the back of what the other chairman come out and said about it, potentially being a rule breaker and telling clubs to take loans if they want to continue, or well, we're not telling them that's the option on the table, should I say? But without being biased on as a Gateshead fan, we know that we got punished once the club took over and tried to get itself back on its feet, and we got punished late on for financial irregularities and things like that. But for the National League to even put that on the table after they've punished so many clubs because of loans and things like that, I just kind of get my head around it, and it's so aggravating and upsetting that the National League would do that to its members, and that's the thing I kind of get my head around.
But look, if we go back to the start of this season, clubs only agreed to start this season on the basis that they were getting grants. It wasn't a loan, it was a grant. They agreed to play behind closed doors. That was the agreement in place, with the belief that more grants would be coming to finalise the season. Now that's turned on its head to be loans. So there's a serious breakdown in communication between the National League, between the DCMS, and between clubs. It's just not. Again, I keep saying it's just not good enough. I firmly believe if clubs had have known back in September time that they would be forced or pushed into taking loans in January to finish the season, they wouldn't have even agreed to kick things off back in October. So, and I know that because clubs have said it in statements. There's been, I think, all 4 Northeast clubs said that they wouldn't have started the season on that basis. It's just, you look at a club like Gateshead and you look at the income that they've got. The vast majority comes from either sponsorship or ticket sales, or people come through the gates. When you take away one of those, the biggest one probably being that people come through the gates, it just leaves a massive hole in the budget. And as fantastic as the live streaming has been, particularly the commentary on some occasions, it's just it doesn't fill that void. It doesn't fill that financial the gap in the finances. So it's, for me, I'd be shocked if clubs are willing to take on loans, particularly the ones that we know aren't the richest clubs around, the ones that don't get the biggest crowds, because is it really worth jeopardising the long-term future of your club for taking on a loan to finish a season where you're probably going to finish mid-table?
Well, yeah, this one's from Luke. But do you think head against the FC during this mess? Of course, the fixtures are going ahead. This is our first game back since the break. Looks like Fylde want to play their games, but can you see this game going ahead this weekend? I mean, Gateshead's still in full-time training. I think the lads were doing bike work today and being sick in the snow outside because they got really through it. I've seen on social media, but Dave, I personally see that game going ahead.
If you want my honest opinion, I don't know. I really don't know, because I think this shows up how farcical the situation is. That this vote should have been done within a week maximum. It should have been just cut and cleared and done, because then it would stop this situation where you had was it filed today still advertising the game that was meant to be going ahead tonight. You had who's the other one? There was another game where it was happening.
I think there was 10 South and North games that were scheduled to go ahead, but have all been cancelled due to COVID or weather problems.
But then you've got a situation with Darlington, where Darlington have called their game off because of the weather, which we know how bad it is up here, and they're getting accused of doing it because they want to play because of the situation going on. Now, it's not that. The pitch was clearly, there's been a lot of snow in Darlington. We know there has. We've seen it on the news. Yet clubs are being opened up to accusations of deliberately postponing games. There are clubs don't want to play, and I think it's understandable they don't want to play because they don't know what's happening. And the minute players walk on the pitch, they deserve to be paid. Now, where's that money coming from? So, this is what I just can't get my head around, and this is why the vote should have been done within a maximum of a week. Allow directors to have their meetings at each club, then you make a decision, you put your vote in, and we move on quickly. And all games should have been postponed in that time, because it's just led to this absolute farce. So the short answer to the question is I genuinely don't know if it'll go ahead. I suspect not, but who knows?
Yeah, well, Charles, take all us to donate 1 week to the National League grassroots football would be a big help. Vardy comes to mind, but the players aren't the players aren't the responsibility for this. It's the authorities of that govern football. We've known that at the top level, whether it be the FA, the Premier League, and even UEFA and FIFA, we know the money isn't distributed fairly across the world, let alone across the country and down the leagues. It's all at the top. We know that, and what trickles down is minimal. And from transfers, the sell-ons. That's the way it really works at the moment, sadly. And as I say, I think people are not looking at the bigger picture, even at the top level. How long can some of these clubs go without taking in, like, say, Newcastle United? If you do a bit of maths on a match day, they probably take in 5 million if that place is full on a match day, if all the tickets are sold and pies and pints. Now, you remove that from their budget. I know people say, Premier League clubs could play without any fans quite happily. Yes, they're doing it at the moment. In the long term, they can't, not on the wages that they're paying. We've seen Arsenal have to get rid of players off their budget, and that's a massive club. I think this situation hasn't really peaked yet in football. It's started at the lower level because we've got less money, but I think it will go all the way to the top.
You look, you could argue the three biggest clubs in the world is Real Madrid, Barcelona, who both said that they're in trouble financially. They're struggling at the moment. Then you got Man United, who said they've got a massive hole in their finances because of COVID. If the three biggest clubs in the world are struggling, then everyone else is going to fall in line with that. I don't care who you are. You take out this chunk of money from sales of tickets and, as you say, merchandise, all that sort of stuff. The top end it's cushioned a little bit by the TV money and the extortionate TV money they get, but they're not. They're not fully protected from it. They're still going to lose money. I do agree that firstly, I will say I don't think the players should, at the top end of the game, should have to pay money to look after the lower levels. I get where Charles is coming from, but at the end of the day, these lads have worked hard to get where they are, and they deserve what they get, no matter what you think of what wages they get. But it's down to how money is distributed from the top end of the game, from FIFA, UEFA, the Premier League, how that flows down the pyramid. And at the minute, it's not flowing properly. This is a much wider conversation, by the way, but there's too much money going out of the game to agents and this sort of thing. So I just think that there needs to, and there won't be, I'll say this now, there won't be, but there needs to be a full analysis of where money goes in the pyramid. There needs to be a full review of it by an independent body, by nobody with it. Nobody on this panel should have conflicted interests. Should be people who can look at it without bias and make decisions and recommendations based on that. But despite that little rant, it won't happen.
They'll not bring in a think tank to look at it and pick the bones. It's a very guarded, and it's a cash cow for the people at the top, and they're not going to let anyone into that, are they?
No, not at all. And this is why you've got to be. Again, you've got to praise the way Spennymoor and Gateshead and clubs like this are trying to look after themselves, and they don't want to rely on handouts. They want to rely on making money themselves and doing things the right way and making sure that they have a football club 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years down the line. They don't want to have to take out loans and rely on handouts from clubs. They want things done properly, and that's the way it should be done through the pyramid. I spoke to Jeff Thompson last summer, South Shields chairman, about obviously they got caught up in the not being promoted and the null and void there. And he said at the moment it feels like the non-league pyramid is being truncated, or the football pyramid is being truncated, where you've basically got the Premier League Championship, they're on a level, then you've got League One, League Two, they look after themselves, then you've got the National League, and then everyone below that is just kind of cut off now. And I think we're seeing more and more of that as time goes on. And, I know Jeff stirs up a lot of emotions and people in South Shields do, but he's right, let's be honest. The way things are happening, it does look as if everyone's just looking after themselves. I think, you look at a club like South Shields, they are trying to progress. They've got things right off the pitch, and they're being denied a chance to progress by people who haven't got a clue what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just a sad situation, isn't it? Really, it's just. And oh, sorry, you're low there, Mickey.
The one thing that's never been mentioned is the players.
I'll turn you up a little bit. Oh, you all right there? You're quite low.
I think, did you say the players, Mickey?
Aye.
Yeah. You look at the players. So again, we're using Gateshead as an example. So last year, played a whole season, got in the playoffs. This year, stop-start. They're putting themselves in danger by travelling here, there, and everywhere to play games, doing it for the good of the club. And it's going to feel, again, if this season's null and voided, like a waste of time. And you've got to feel sorry for them for that, because their careers are, some of them, you look at the older players in the group, suddenly they've got 2 seasons where they haven't really done much. And I look at, going down to the Northern League, former Gateshead player, you look at Graham Armstrong, he's now said that this season is more than likely going to be his last season. And that could be wiped out. He should be playing at Wembley in a Vars final, last season's Vars final, still hasn't been sorted. So, yeah, I think that's a great point, Mickey. The players and managers, I could use another example in the Northern League. You've got Kevin Bolam, the Heaven manager for 2 seasons. Last season in a promotion spot, didn't get promoted. This got to the Vars final, still hasn't been played. This year, sat top of the Northern League by a decent distance, probably going to be promoted. And according to the record books, he hasn't managed a game if this season gets null and voided. So it is something I don't think people are looking at, is the kind of mental impact it will have on players and managers. Like, it's a good point, Mickey.
Certainly.
The fitness of the players as well. It's all stop-start. No one care about clubs this, clubs that. No one ever mentions the players. It must be so frustrating as players, because at the end of the day, no one wants to null and void the season. We all want the football to remain, but not to the detriment of our clubs.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute minefield. And Scurfield sent a message there as well. It stinks that even the FA Cup money was reduced this season. Yeah, nothing's really been a help on that front at all, has it? And
that one's an interesting one, and I think Anthony is right. But there's 2 things to consider on that. Last year it was doubled, so it's kind of gone back to where it was. Which, depending on how you view that, last year was a bonus. But I agree with that. The other one is that the FA have a big hole in their finances they're trying to fill now. It does seem harsh that the prize money that non-league clubs value so much in the FA Cup is the one that's been hit. But I think it is sad that they did that. And again, there are clubs that have done well in the FA Cup this year. Look at Chorley; they've made some decent money off it. But you think of what they would have made if it had been the season before.
I know. Plus with in as well, and it would have been something special for them. But Mark, so if anyone's just tuned in, if you'd like to give your little show, your show a push, that just came out today, how they can find it.
Yeah, so it was just a new version of the Sunderland Echo Northern Goal show. Obviously, not a lot of on-field action to discuss. So we had a supporters club special. It's something we're going to be doing each month. So we had supporters from Heaven Town, from Darlington, from South Shields, and some bloke from Gateshead on. And we just discussed the situation in non-league. You know, just the situation at their own clubs. It's something we'll be doing, as I say, on a monthly basis going forward for supporters at different clubs. In a normal environment, the Northern Goal Show is kind of a non-league match of the day for the North East. We have goals on from the Northern League up to the National League, and guests on each week. So, you know, keep an eye on that on the Sunderland Echo website. We're also going to be doing a few different specials. We did a one with Stephen and Phil Turnbull last week, a bit of a Q&A with them, which was interesting, to say the least. There was some interesting words used in there. A little bit of infighting as well, which was interesting. But yeah, so you know, keep an eye on it. It does come out every Tuesday or Wednesday, and just something to give the latest one to give supporters in the region a bit of a voice, because you know, they get forgotten about a bit with everything going on. So I think it was a nice idea to get some supporters involved. It's just sad we had to get Dave as one of them.
I know, I've always got to bring it down. Mark, thank you as ever for coming on. As I say, hopefully one day when we get you back on, we'll be able to talk about football. But until then, great value as ever, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks. Well, there we go, Mark Carruthers, and so he gives a good insight there. Right, well, we are going to open up the phone lines now. I think we're going to have Jack the Brackley fan is going to ring us. The number is on the bottom if you want to ring after Jack. He said he's going to ring shortly, so we'll find out what his thoughts and views are on everything at the moment. But we're just going to play a little video here. Remember, do share the show. It's what keeps us, you know, getting new people involved, and that's exactly what we want. So just play this, and hopefully we'll be hearing from Jack very shortly. Oh, there you go, a lovely little montage of how to share the show, whether you're on your phone or your computer. Joey C. Agnew, he's put greetings from the West Peterborough supporters, yes. And Charles Wath, he's put, I'm 65 now, and my generation said the Premier League will spoil the game as the lower leagues would be less important. Well, it certainly seems to be the way, doesn't it, Mickey?
I mean, I reckon non-league football was on the up.
Yeah. Do you know what it is, Mickey? Do you know what I think it might be? Because your microphone's getting lower and lower. I think, have you got another battery to put in to the microphone? I think that's where it might be. But we have Jack joining us now. Hello there, Jack. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm right. How are you?
Yeah, frustrated.
Yeah, frustrated. Hello, how are you?
Not too bad. What about the cricket before we start, do you think?
Yeah, cricket performance was good. At least that's a positive.
Fantastic one.
Yeah, hell of a performance. But, yeah, just thought I'd keep my shoes again.
Yeah, so what's
frustrated, isn't it?
It is. I mean, have you seen the stuff that's come out from the Dover chairman?
I saw some of that earlier. I didn't really read into it, but I saw the main bit.
And what's your thoughts on that one? Because it's interesting that he's actually, you know, he's obviously, you know, he stood his ground, he's stepped down, and he's put his beliefs out there.
Fair play to him. Fair enough to him. Yeah, it's fair enough to him. But sure, this voting needs to be done now. Then clubs can come forward.
Yeah, I think when they put that deadline in, was it the 28th of February?
Apart what I got told, 28 days. It's legal. It has to be legal.
Yeah.
It can't be more. It can't be a week about it. It has to be 28 days for legal reasons.
It's still
So
that's So obviously, I mean, obviously, there's still meeting. I've led to believe there was a meeting today, a National League meeting. But obviously, we know if you follow Ollie Bayliss on on Twitter, he seems to have his finger on the pulse and knows everything, and he's obviously got a graph up there as well, which I'll try and get.
To me, what it looks like that the National League South want to go ahead.
Yeah.
And the National League North is a bit up in the air because you've got, I don't know, you've got about 13 teams want to null and void.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got probably 8 teams who probably want to carry on.
Well, I've actually got it on the screen at the moment. The National League North, there is, I'll just have to count it while I'm on the screen here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 4 null and void with 4 against. Still waiting for some votes in there. So it looks pretty certain for null and void in the north, but of course we've got the south as well to contend with. And if you look at the south, it's all against nearly. I think there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams for the null and void.
So what's the voting situation like then? Is it for?
I think at the moment, I think the null and void is ahead by 3 or 4 votes or 2. It's that close.
But you've got York who hasn't voted yet, and I imagine they're going to carry on.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. You've got Chorley have said they're going to carry on.
Yeah.
You've got. Trying to think of Kidderminster, imagine they'll carry on.
Boston and Brackley as well. Have Brackley announced yet? What
Brackley. We're playing it by ear. Obviously we're planning on playing matches, but
this hasn't been updated yet. I think because there's been a couple today. Kirch National have want the league null and void, so there's another 4 there for the null and void. So obviously what we've got on screen at the moment isn't exactly 100% up to date. No, it's very close.
I think this week or next week is going to be the most divine moment.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, from what the Dover chairman said there, that it's against league rules about the loans and stuff. And obviously, we've seen clubs demoted, like Gateshead, and clubs in the past even ejected from the National League because of financial, problems and things like that. I mean, it is pretty strange that they have this on the table to make the league continue, isn't it?
It's just ridiculous now. For me, I do feel sorry for the National League. I kind of feel they've got the testing out, which is I think it's 2-3 months late, but it's what's the word? It's a step forward into the right direction.
Yeah,
but
it's
2 months too late.
Yeah, it's way too late, especially when we had that spike and everything got closed down even more from Christmas. It is. You'd
have thought from Boxing Day onwards you would have had this testing coming in, but I don't know. Fair play to them if they want to try it.
Yeah, I mean, I say we are seeing things drop drastically on the COVID side of things, but there's no way are we going to see fans in this season at all. So
you wouldn't think so, but you wouldn't think fans back in.
No.
And there's another thing. We went to play Southport tonight.
Yeah.
Did you see their interview with Southport's manager?
I've heard something. I didn't get to see it when I was setting up because I was helping put the kids to bed. So if you could tell us about it.
He was talking about a situation, and he thinks it's ridiculous. And he said that he wouldn't take his players down to Brackley.
Yeah. And
it got to Monday night. We have not heard anything from the club, Southport, and got to about 10:30. It was going to be off anyway because the weather across the country is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But why would Southport leave it till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning where you go, oh yeah, we're not travelling? You would have thought you'd tell them on a Sunday.
Yeah. You'd think there'd be a bit of common sense behind the scenes where either the manager rings the other manager and has a heart
or club officials.
Yeah, exactly.
Even
and just say, look, this is the stance, this is the reason why, and try and put a statement out together or or whatever, because everyone's in this together, and that's the thing. And you see, the likes of Bratley, I can understand. You've been in the playoffs. This could be the 3rd season in a row, or could it be the 4th season in a row? Sorry. And then you've got Chester, who are up there, doing really well in contentions. Gloucester's
null and void.
They want to null and void it, and it just shows you the stance on clubs that have had the financial troubles lately. Of course, all the Northeast non-league clubs have basically said no, we can't, we don't want to. Which is understandable, but
it's understandable. I'm not gonna argue against it. I just think clubs need to, like for example, Southport. I was quite angry at them because to tell us that on a Saturday, their manager on a Saturday to tell us we're not travelling down, but say nothing to the club.
Yeah,
we got the pitch ready. We got players to leave work early. Obviously, whoever holding it, but to leave it to the last minute, it's just
it's not ideal.
I mean,
but it's just we just need clarification soon because I don't know if you've seen on Twitter as well that the clubs who want to carry on, they should make their own mini league.
Yeah,
you've seen people say that, like,
but it is obviously I don't know what the legal stand is on the leagues and how they can, if the FA would
or add the National League North and South together.
Yeah, I think we're just going to have to. Obviously, it's a case of waiting now, isn't it? And
it's just a waiting game, really, isn't it? What?
And obviously, there was a meeting today. I've got no idea what was discussed, but obviously,
no, I didn't know there was a meeting.
Unless there's any financial things that have come from it, maybe from Sport England again, maybe in form of grants or like a month by month basis. But can clubs do that without the guarantee of being able to get to the end of the season? I mean, now we've got to put into contention the weather is decimating fixtures as it would at any season at this time of year, but to have that on top of COVID positive tests and things like that is just but would games be more likely to go forward if the players tested negative? Would the game still be able to go on and the positive players isolate, instead of taking the full fixture out?
That's what they do. That's what they do. Premier League, though, don't have Championship and League One and League Two. What's the difference between us and if we want to be elite, what's the difference?
Exactly. There's no way the season can continue unless that was obviously with grants. Fight for put.
Because if there's one case and that's asymptomatic and he's fine, he's got mild symptoms, he can't spread it. What? You can't really tell everyone self-isolated he's asymptomatic, can you?
Yeah, well, we've got a message that's been sent in by John Laverick. He's put, is the vote designed to determine who has money to continue? Those that vote to continue offered loan, those null and void given a grant. Thinking dark and deep in National League Board here, or dark and deeper. I think that's probably wishful thinking, that one.
That is wishful thinking, but to me, part of me wants to continue because this is our third year in a row what we're fighting to get out of the league, and I think Brackley Town as a team we can get out of the league, but part of me I don't want to see Brackley die, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
I want to see Brackley in the next few years with fans back in watching us get promoted.
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
I think that's the thinking of most people in the league, isn't it? We just want the league and the players, the teams to be there for the foreseeable without any problems. And I think just the loan thing is, as soon as I seen that, I was like, oh, that's it. Well, the season's over. And I thought every club would have been about the same. Obviously, the likes of York, are going to push you.
Yeah,
you've seen what they were like last year, and we're just going to have to wait and see now. I mean, we've debated most of the ins and outs, and I say every fan we speak to, and yourself as well, we all seem to have a bit of common sense about the matter, but it just doesn't seem to be like that with the league, though, does it?
No, it's just shambles at the moment. We don't know.
And what are your fellow Brackley fans like at the moment? Or have you got many?
Well,
any
we
friends?
we thought Saturday would be our last game. That's why some of us went on the step ladder. We thought, fucking our last game. We're not going to play anymore this year.
Yeah. So I mean, what are you like your fellow fans that you speak to? Are they? Do they want the season to continue, or would they be happy with null and void?
They can't see. They can't see. They're not happy being null and void. They want.
Sorry, I probably worded that wrong. But would they accept null and void? Should I say?
I think they would accept null and void, but at the end of the day, I think everyone wants to watch good game of football. But it's the best for every club, in my opinion.
Yeah, it certainly is. And
you've got to keep.
See if Mickey, I think you've completely died there, Mickey. I can't hear you now. I don't know if you've got a spare battery for your mic. Are you not? No, I think Mickey's he's died on that. So he's gonna have to take his mic out and just use his phone. I think the mic on his phone. See if that works. So this he's gonna have to get to the pound shop to get a square battery.
Pound shop quickly.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Not open other. Right. Is it?
No, they're not essential, are they?
No, they're not. Well, Mickey's gone there at the moment, so it's just me and you, Jack, at the moment.
Yeah.
But sorry, I'll let you go there.
The Curzon have come out. We're meant to play Curzon on Saturday. Do you think they're going to go ahead and play? What do Brackley do? Do we prepare for Saturday or do we not?
Well, at the moment, Gator are still in full-time training at the moment, seeing things on social media today. Obviously, they're still preparing. We've got a game on Saturday away to ASA Files, which I've got a message here about that, actually. David Tronis, but did you say that ASA Files sent officials to the game they were supposed to be playing as they didn't believe the pitch was unplayable? I think that was mentioned earlier on. Yeah, so that's... a little bit strange. I mean, I must admit, I had not a run-in with some of their media team at the home game, but I wasn't impressed with their conduct. Put it that way. So I'm not. So I'm not surprised.
I think they're too big for this league.
Yeah. Yeah. Not impressed with Filed at the moment, but we play them on Saturday, and So obviously, if the weather's all right and there's no COVID tests in our team, then hopefully they'll be able to go. But I think Mickey's back. Are you all right there, Mickey? Just.
I can hear him just.
Yeah, I've got you up as high as I can go, Mickey. Yeah. Well, we're just getting a tiny little bit there. So as the battery ran out, is it, Mickey? No. All green. Oh, I don't know where it is on that note, but we're having trouble with Mickey there. But as I say, who have Brackley got on Saturday? Who the schedule to play?
Saturday.
Curzon. And do you think that one will go ahead? Because Curzon they've come out and said null and void. But then again, have we got to go out and play these games now? Because obviously,
do you get fined if you don't play these games?
There's just been nothing put out. Yeah. Something has to come out by the end of the week, because obviously we can't go on like this. The club's not knowing, and obviously weather's going to affect everything. It's going to be a tough week to get games on, regardless. But what if the game is available to go? Are you going to be deducted points? Are you going to be reprimanded? If you refuse to go.
By the end of the month, everyone's going to play, depending on the weather, 4 games, maybe 6 if you're midweek games. That's what work out in maths, 3, 6, 9. That's probably 18 points available. Gloucester could win all them 6 games and be on 50 points.
Yeah.
And Gloucester could turn around and went, look, we're on 50 points, and the team behind us is on, let's say, 35. They're 15 points clear.
Yeah. It's just not ideal, the whole thing. Not ideal at all. But as I say, Jack, thank you very much for the call, because I think we've got someone else that's wanting to get on.
Yeah, no worries.
Hopefully we'll speak to you soon when we get a bit of clarity, and of course, hopefully next season as well, because you're a good friend of the show, and it's always great to hear from you.
No worries.
So thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Well, there we go. That was Jack there, and I've just clicked Mickey off the stream there by accident. So, Mickey, we're going to try and talk to you again. Can you hear me? Can't hear you at all, Mickey. All I can hear is like the odd little... So I don't know what it is. So Mickey, unless Mickey unplugs his, if you can hear me, if he unplugs his microphone and everything, logs out, then logs back in and just uses his microphone on his phone. Try it that way. So we'll see if he can do that. So if he unplugs it and he's just taking his mic away. We have another message here from Charles Waff. As Mickey said, it's what about the players? I wonder how much COVID is affecting the players' performance. After all, they are real people with families. And we mentioned that late on last week after we spoke to Charlotte. The players haven't really, we haven't given them, as I say, the thought. I think it's the honest thing to say. You want to, you do forget that sometimes, that the players obviously are heavily involved in this. They're the ones that are going out. It's their safety, as mentioned, and they're going out and, trying to win games and training in this time when everyone's meant to be staying home. So yeah, it's absolutely it's a shambles on all fronts, and obviously very thankful to the Gator players. They're going out there doing their job still. Just a pity that it isn't in front of fans in safer times. But if you'd like to ring the show, you can ring us on, there we go, 077 494 55002, and that is 077 494 55002. We're going to play a quick message from our sponsors, and when we come back, we want another call. If not, we'll be wrapping it up because we are nearly an hour in, and it's been a decent little show so far. Just a little bit of technical difficulties with Mickey's mic, so hopefully we can get that sorted when we come back. Well, Mickey isn't back just yet. He must be still battling with the microphone and seeing if he can get back on. But if he doesn't, we want you to ring up the show. We'll give it another 5 minutes and see if there's any more messages. I think I might have missed one or two earlier up here. See if I can get to it. And Skirfield, he put loans and finances are wrong. How can you safeguard clubs and ask them to go into debt? If the club went into administration within 12 months after COVID and get the National League, would they be the first fine to the club and point reduction, or kick the club out the leagues just like us? It's all wrong and avoidable. Yeah, exactly. So that is a good point. What happens if you do take the loan 18 months down the line? You've got your loan repayments and you go into financial difficulty, you go into administration. Are you going to be deducted because of the loan the National League told you to take? So yeah, an absolute mess as ever, as it's been in the past few weeks, and dare I say the full season. So if you want to ring us, you can ring us now. If not, we will be ending the show here. Just like to say a massive thank you to Jack, the Brackley fan, for ringing up, and also to Mark Rivers, and be sure to look at his Northern Goals show. You'll be able to see that on the Sunderland Echo site, and if you follow Mark on social media. And also as well, thank you to people that have been watching on Twitter tonight. We've streamed there for the first time tonight, and we hope it went all right. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, and if you are, please subscribe to the channel, because we want to get to 100 subscriptions so we can change the URL to Heed Army Podcast. Just a little thing there. Don't worry, it's not trying to make money, because we don't get enough views to do that. But we appreciate every view that we get. And also as well, if you're watching on YouTube, likewise, go to Facebook and like the Heed Army Podcast live page. That'd be fantastic. And while you're at it, if you're going to be on a liking spree and sharing spree, follow our sponsors, Northern Print Solutions at MPS Gateshead on Twitter, and search for Northern Print Solutions on Instagram and on Facebook, and that would be absolutely fantastic. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to get another call, so we will be wrapping it up there. We'll be back hopefully next week when we've got enough to talk about. As I say, at the moment we prefer to be talking about matches and results, but we're not. It's unfortunately, it's just all this rubbish. And John Laverick's put nail on the head. The league have no consideration for players. Remember, they are human beings, not entertainment robots, without a doubt. And Mark Spencer is put, please, can you share the Gator FC Academy Open evening event with Gator College on the 15th of February at 6 p.m. Link up and sign up to our social media pages. We did share that earlier on our Twitter. So if you have a little look at that, and do search for Gateshead FC Academy on social media, as well as all the other affiliated Gateshead FC accounts like the Gateshead Soul. You'll see fundraising and updates on what's going on around the club. Of course, follow the Gateshead FC social media pages and you'll find out when they have new items in the shop. Pardon me. And also as well, any interviews and things that's coming, that's happening, that's being put up by the club and on their YouTube channel as well, because they put up some great interviews. And say Jack McGragan does some fantastic things on there. Right, so we are going to wrap it up there. Massive thank you. Unfortunately, we lost Mickey through a microphone problem there. Hopefully, we'll have that sorted for the next show. And we will see you next time. Remember, like and share the podcast. That's what we want to do. And we will see you next week, hopefully, with a result of the vote. Will there be null and void, or will we be playing on? Time will tell.